Hi, Lance with Voorhees Drafting Services here. I'm using Chief Architect Premier X17. I wanted to show a couple ways. I read about a question about wainscoting, and I wanted to show a couple methods where you can quickly change the wall surface material or like add a wall surface material quickly for the purposes of a wainscot. I did want to point out in this video, depending on what you're trying to accomplish with a wainscot, if you're trying to illustrate or imitate individual wainscoting panels or have a certain style of wainscoting that you're trying to illustrate, these two methods may not be the best course of action depending on what you're trying to accomplish with adding a wainscoting. But if you are looking for a really quick and fairly easy way to illustrate a different material on part of the wall to try to imitate a wainscot, both of these methods accomplish that quite well. And so I have just a quick plan that I threw together here. And inside my master bedroom is what you are seeing. On the right is the master bedroom, and it also has a closet on the inside of that room. The first method is using the wall covering tab in the wall specification dialog box. And so you can do this either from plan view. Inside the plan view, you can click on a room and it will highlight that room. If you double click on that room, it will open up the room specification dialog box. I can also click on my 3D view here, and to get to this camera that I opened up, I'm going to reopen up that camera just to show you. I can go up to 3D, find it here, and under Create Perspective View, there's an option for Perspective Floor Overview. In a Perspective Floor Overview camera, and I'm going to tile these next to each other here. In a Perspective Floor Overview camera, this is kind of like a dollhouse view. I can see inside of my building with the upper level or perhaps roof taken off the top so I can peer into my building. And just like I did over here in the 2D plan view, I can click inside of this room. Well, first I got to click on the camera, click on that room. That's going to highlight. If I double click that, I can bring up my room specification dialog box. There's a tab here called Materials. Wait, not Materials, excuse me, it's Wall Covering that I want. And this will allow me to apply a wall covering to all of the surfaces inside the room. Now, it's not going to affect the closet because the closet, it's its own separate room, but it is going to affect all the walls inside the bedroom, minus that closet. And so I'm going to click Add. And this is where you want to select your material that you would want to use to try to imitate your wainscot or wainscoting. And so Chief has a material in here that I'm going to use for this demonstration. And in the search, I want to make sure I'm on library materials. But in the search, I'm going to type invert vertical panel and hit enter. And under core catalogs, materials, and siding and paneling, vertical paneling, I have a vertical paneling material that I'm just going to use for this demonstration. I have wood here. I'm going to use this buckskin one for this demonstration, vertical paneling skin, and then I'm going to click OK. Now we have controls here. Now if you wanted to start and stop this material like horizontally, like maybe on the left end of your wall, you wanted it to start and then you wanted it to stop maybe 50 feet away from the other end of the wall. To accomplish that, you have to do that with a wall material region, which is going to be the next method I show. But this has some basic controls to control where it starts and stops vertically running up the wall. And with a wainscot, you're typically probably going to want it to start right at the very bottom of the wall. And so where it says floor to bottom, I'm going to type in 0 there. And that will start it at the very bottom, right at the floor, basically. It'll start it right at the floor. And height, this is where you can type in how high of a wainscoting you want. And so for this demonstration, I'm just going to use 36 inches or 3 feet. If you want to type in an actual feet measurement, feet and inch measurement for these fields here, you can open up number style and change the dialog box units to feet and fractional inches. And notice when I did that, it's at 3 feet. And so now I'm going to click OK and going to view my result. Now notice here, just like I set it up to do, it applied that to all wall surfaces in the room. Now if I want to do that on an individual wall by wall basis, I have to do that another way, and I do have a couple options. Let's pretend this method is acceptable, and I want to add, I think they call it a chair rail, to try to imitate the trim molding transition at this transition point where the wainscot starts and stops. If I click on my room again and double click to open up the room specification dialog box, I have a moldings tab. I'm going to click add new, and under core catalogs, architectural, moldings and profile extensions, I think I have some chair rail here. And I'm just going to look at these here. Oh, it might have been, excuse me, I might be thinking of the wrong type of railing. Alright, I'm going to go into, where was it here? Panel and cap railing. Thought it was chair rail. Alright, I'm just gonna pick one of these chair rails and that might look good just for this demonstration. Once you have your molding selected that you want to use for the transition, down here at type, I'm going to select chair rail. I think that's the option I want. And it automatically looks right here that it automatically did a vertical offset. I'm going to type in 0 where that vertical offset is and see what it does here. And it put it at the bottom of the where the floor is. And so if for some reason it didn't automatically do that, or if you wanted to specify your own value, let's say your wainscoting was 42 inches instead of 3 feet, you can manually enter that value to match whatever your wainscoting is. And I'm going to type in 36 inches here because my wainscoting is 3 foot. And then I'm going to click OK and view my results. And notice here that it added that chair rail. Now, one little caveat of this method, this wall covering method that I just used, if I go back to my wall covering, with this wall covering option, you don't have any means to specify the thickness of that. The last method I'm going to show allows you to specify a material thickness when you apply it. And so this method, if you're for some reason needing to specify a thickness, you may want to use another method. This method kind of resembles like painting a wall, where it's not actually changing your wall type definition, and it's not really changing how your walls are set up and what makes up the wall. It's just basically painting on another material to the walls of that room as you have it specified here under position. And so where you have these dimensions typed in, where to put that wall covering material, it's just kind of painting it on, but it's not actually changing your wall type definition. It's not changing material thicknesses. And so if you was to go to your wall specification dialog for those walls, you will notice that it didn't really change anything. Alright, now what I'm going to do is show something that's a little bit similar to this method, but it does have some quirks and some things to keep in mind. And so where this wall covering is, I'm going to go back to the wall covering. I'm going to delete that. And then I'm also going to delete my chair rail by going into the moldings. I want to delete that. Click OK and remove it. Just like we can do for rooms, walls have a wall covering tab. So if I go click on a wall here, go to wall covering, and just like I did before, I'm going to use that same vertical paneling here, butt skin, to illustrate this. And then I'm going to have it start at the bottom. And then for this demonstration, I'm going to this time use 42 inches. to show another wainscot height. Click OK. And this time it did it for the whole entire wall, all the way through my building. And so with this method, the caveat is it's going to apply it on the entire length of a wall. And so if I didn't want that for some reason, I'm going to go here into my plan view and I'm going to break this wall section. Break this wall in a couple of spots. I'm going to break it there, and I'm going to break it there. Let's say I only wanted that wainscot on a certain part of that wall. Now that I broke the wall into 3 sections, I can select the 2 sections of wall that I don't want that wainscoting on and hit delete. Hit delete and remove those. And now notice inside the closet in the other parts of the building, I don't have that wainscot. That's because I broke the wall. It is still on the entire surface, I should say entire length of the wall, but the wall, that wall is now, like in terms of length, is shorter because I broke it. Now if I wanted, let's say I only wanted wainscoting on that wall, but I wanted to add a chair rail. Now if I go to add a chair rail, I'm going to illustrate an issue that might come up. I'm going to delete that. I don't want that. I'm going to add a chair rail here like I did before. Pick something different here. Make sure it's chair rail. This time I'm going to put 42 inches. My wainscot is 42 inches. Now notice I have added that chair rail, but what if I don't want it on all those other walls? Let's say I only want it where on that one wall. Well, what I have to do is add a room molding polyline. And so I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to, inside the plan view, I'm going to click so that my room is highlighted. And down in my edit toolbars, I have an option to make room molding polyline. I'm going to click that. And it's asking for a height. And so I'm going to type in my height of my wainscot, 42 inches. Click OK. Now it added that polyline. And I'm just going to keep tabbing. Well, first, before I do that, I'm going to open this up and go to my moldings. And I'm going to add a chair rail here. Chair rail. I'm going to click OK for now. Alright, my chair rail is in the right spot. And X17 has a edit toolbar icon called select next side. And so I'm going to cycle through here. Gotta zoom in. Alright, I'm clicked off in that rooms molding polyline, and then I click back on it, and this red, how I got my defaults, well, my program preferences, I should say, set up, is my active edge of this polyline has a red edit handle here. And so I know that edge is selected. And there's an icon here, remove molding from selected edge. I'm going to remove molding from selected edge. When that's done, I'm going to go to select next side. And I'm going to just keep selecting next side until I toggle to the next edge that I want to remove. And for all those edges that I want to remove, the molding, I'm going to click my edit handle, remove molding from selected edge, select next side, remove molding from selected edge. I didn't do that right. I missed the edge. I mistakenly added the molding to an edge that was already turned off. Doors and windows, by default, the moldings will be turned off for those edges. And so now I did every edge that I didn't want that molding on has been turned off. And so going back into the 3D display here, that was how I was able to add that chair rail to just that certain edge there where my wainscot is. And so that's another option you have. The last option I'm going to show is a little more involved, but it does give you some maybe a little more flexibility depending on what you're trying to accomplish. It might give you more options, and that is a wall material region. And the easiest way that I find to apply those, I'm going to actually remove this molding polyline and remove that wainscoting so I can illustrate my last option here. Delete. And then it automatically joined those walls back together, which is fine. And so I'm going to open up a elevation camera. Go to 3D. Let's see here. Cross-section elevation camera. And I'm just going to start with this wall here. I'm going to tile this view over here. Alright, now I have 3 views open. I have my plan view open over here. In the upper right corner, I have that 3D view. And then I have my elevation camera. And if I wanted to make things maybe a little easier on myself, I can click on this elevation camera view and hit an icon I have on my toolbars called Edit Active View, and I have an option to clip to room. And so, in some instances, using clip to room might make it a little easier to add my wall material region. And so, over here, it looks like a sandwich of about 3 wall materials, or layers I should say, but I'm going to click on this icon, wall material region, and then I'm just going to click and snap to the bottom edge of this elevation because it's clipping to the bottom edge of the floor. I'm going to click and drag upwards and snap to the other side end of the wall and place it. And by default, my wall material region does tile, but I'm going to edit that. I'm going to double click on that wall material region, and I'm going to edit my wall layers here. And for this demonstration, I'm just going to make it simple and only have one wall layer. And let's say for whatever reason this is a 3/4 inch material, and I'm going to use the same texture I did before in my other demonstrations. Vertical paneling, buckskin. And notice here you have thickness and some other controls, and this offers a little more options than the other two methods. But this still may not be the perfect solution if you're trying to illustrate individual panels. This might not be a perfect solution. Now I do have an option here. I can have it cut the finish layers of the parent object, which would be my wall. And so right now what it's doing is wherever I have that wall material region on top of the wall, it's physically removing those finished wall layers and replacing it with the wall layers I have set up here. If I wanted that to not affect the wall layers of the wall underneath and just wanted it to sit on top of those wall layers of the wall, I can deselect that. And then my wainscoting, I'm going to click OK here. My wainscoting is actually sitting right on top of the drywall because I had deselected cut finish layers of parent object. If I wanted that to physically remove the drywall underneath or whatever finish wall layers that are on the inside edge of that wall, I can click cut finish layers. Now, to adjust my height, a wall material region is basically a polyline based object. And so if I click on the top edge, depending on how you have your dimensions set up, you may get a temporary dimension. And I'm going to select this temporary dimension, and I'm going to, just for this demonstration, type in 5 foot. It raised it up higher. And if for some reason I wanted to, let's say, have 2 different heights of wainscoting on that wall, because it's a polyline based object, in my edit toolbar icons, I can add a break. And so I can say break it at the middle, and then my selected tab back into that polyline with my edge selected here. I can drag that down, and maybe I want drag that down 2 feet. I now have a wainscoting with different heights of wainscot. Now, the issue with this method here that I'm showing, if I want this to be on all the walls inside of my room, I have to go into these elevation cameras for each wall and then add my wall material region. So I have to do it on this wall, to do it on this wall. And this can be a little more time consuming if you're trying to add it to multiple walls, because I find the best method is to open up a cross-section elevation camera to add these. But it is an option you have. And I'm not going to show every wall here, but I'm going to do one more wall here. Section elevation camera. And add my wall material region. And this is going to be, for the sake of this demonstration, this is going to be the last wall. And once I have the height established for this wall material region over here, the one next to it, I can snap to that height. And so there is 3 options I just showed for imitating. I would say these are more of kind of like a quick and dirty method for illustrating a wainscot if you wanted to quickly add another material to try to imitate a wainscot. But if you're trying to imitate individual wainscot panels or a more detailed wainscot, you might have to do some other methods that are more involved.